Okay, great. Yeah, welcome, Marilyn, Ors, B, Dana. Okay, so this is the second session in this module on the spiritual teacher. And last session, we looked at the qualities of the spiritual teacher, mainly. And then I give some introduction, just kind of the reason for relying on spiritual teacher. And why we put it at this stage of the right at the end of the this presentation of discovering Buddhism, and then the qualities of the student. That briefly. Yeah. Um, yes, remember the qualities of the teacher from the ornament of Mahayana Sutras. There's 10 qualities listed, and then Geshe Potawa says if you can't find a teacher like that, then look at there's 5 qualities. I think being ethically disciplined, having right view of emptiness, being a scholar, having well, not being discouraged, or having more concern for the students than oneself, and having compassion, I believe. And then there are other qualities of teacher and ways to kind of try to find a teacher, and then things to be careful about. I added dangers kind of committing to that sort of relationship. Um, Maybe first, though, before we go on, let's just spend some time generating positive motivation and thinking about why we're here. So let's take a moment first, just sit quietly and check the state of our mind, and then try to focus our attention. So then visualize yourself surrounded by all sentient beings, as we've done before many times. And remember you're interconnected with them, and how oneself and others are the same, and wishing to have happiness and wishing to be free from suffering. And then within that understanding, reflect for yourself why you're here participating in this session on the spiritual teacher, this module. What's your motivation for yourself? How does that relate to others and to enlightenment? And then if you like, visualize the field of refuge in the space in front of you. Shakyamuni Buddha, other holy beings, and then representations of the Dharma and the Sangha. And then generate the mind of refuge. Again, if you like, recognizing or generating a kind of wise fear, wish to be free from suffering of future lives, of samsara in general, and wish to achieve the state of full enlightenment for oneself and also for other sentient beings. And then recognizing how the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha have the ability to protect oneself and others from suffering and lead one to state of one's the fullest development of one's own potential. And then we can recite this taking refuge and generating bodhicitta prayer. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my two collections, from listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my two collections, from explaining the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my two collections, from explaining the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Yeah, so we can pause for the preliminaries there. Uh, yeah, usually it's said in the Lamrim that in the Lamrim in general, two of the most difficult realizations to develop are seeing all sentient beings having been one's mother, and seeing the guru as a Buddha. Um, and I was thinking about why those are both considered difficult compared to like emptiness, which is very subtle and difficult to understand, but it's based on logic and reasoning, kind of purely. Not that the others aren't, but um, it's kind of more just based on logic and reasoning, where I think, and it's quite easy to see the reasoning is very clear for emptiness. Whereas the reasoning to establish that all sentient beings have been your mother is a little bit less clear and a little bit less kind of what do you say, open and shut. A little, well, less kind of I'm not sure, I can't find the right word, but like without room for doubt. Like the reasoning for emptiness is quite, there's not a lot of room for so much doubt. Whereas the reasoning to establish all sentient beings have been your mother is a little bit more flimsy, basically. It's not so clear cut. Um, and then, yeah, I mean, how is that similar to also it's kind of similar to the seeing your guru as a Buddha. Because ordinarily, if we haven't taken someone as a teacher, whether someone's a Buddha or not, we have no idea. How do we know? Because Buddhas appear in all different ways now, in whatever way is beneficial for beings. But then when we decide to rely upon someone as our spiritual teacher, or especially take tantric initiations, or even take bodhisattva vows or refuge vows from someone, and we take the person as our teacher, then then the practice is relying on them as a teacher in the context of Mahayana teaching. Then the practice is to see them as a Buddha. I mean, that's the essence of relying upon a spiritual teacher, as seeing the teacher as being a Buddha. So that's what we'll look at a lot in detail today, all the different kind of reasonings to support that, and explanation of why that's important. But one reason it's difficult, and similar to why it's difficult to see all sentient beings have been our mother, Because in that the sevenfold cause and effect instruction on generating bodhicitta, um, the very first kind of step of the sevenfold cause and effect is seeing all sentient beings as have been your mother. And the purpose of seeing them like that, it's not just your mother, it's also your father, your friends, siblings, anyone who's been very kind to you, and helpful, supportive. Then you try to reflect how all sentient beings have played a similar role in your life in some past life. And then primarily when we look at other sentient beings or think about other sentient beings, remember that kindness and focus on that way they've been kind to us in a past life. So we identify them primarily as someone. We try to identify all sentient beings as someone who's been, selflessly, incredibly kind to us, just as hopefully our mother of this life or someone has been. But one reason that's difficult is because we're so habituated to seeing faults in other people and seeing things we don't like about other people. So of course that reasoning, just the fact that like even our mother of this life has been kind to us also doesn't mean she's also never been like mean to us. Both can coexist, right? But the thing is that if we focus on like just our mother of this life, how she's been very mean to us, and we exclusively think about that, it just makes us miserable. Like the result is we're resentful and miserable, and we can't get along with her, and we're not grateful for all the kind things she's done to us. Whereas if we focus the other way, we just focus on all the ways, she's been very kind and helpful to us, and sort of try to just, forgive and forget about maybe the times she was mean to us or not, treated us unfairly, we felt. Then the result is we feel so much gratitude and happiness and closeness. So we benefit, we feel happier. And it reinforces like our own positive view of ourselves. By looking at the positive qualities we see in another person, it reinforces. It's like we're investing energy in kind of the positive side of things, whether it's with regard to someone else or with regard to ourselves. Whereas if we focus on the things we don't like in another person, then it's like we're putting energy into seeing faults, and whether we realize it or not, in some like subconsciously, we're also focusing on our own faults, right? And we're giving energy to like the faulty side of things, whether it's, deliberately or conscientiously with regard to someone else. Subconsciously, it feeds back to um, um, kind of playing into or giving attention to and exacerbating basically our own kind of faulty behavior. So with regard and that habit to see faults in others, see faults in ourselves is one of the main things that keeps us trapped in samsara, which keeps us from actualizing our potential for enlightenment, right? So and it's a very powerful force. So that's one reason why that practice of seeing all sentient beings have been our mother is so difficult, because the inertia of our habituation to see faults in others, oftentimes as a way of kind of feeling better about ourselves, is so strong. And I think that's very similar to the guru devotion. So when you take someone as your guru and you try to see them as a Buddha, does it mean they are a Buddha for real? Like, no, not really. It's difficult to actually know. But within the practice of seeing them as a Buddha, then like what's the purpose of that practice? It basically, it's the same. You focus exclusively on positive things you see about the person. And so that reinforces, your own recognition of your own positive qualities. It gives energy to your own positive qualities. So it helps develop your own positive qualities. And also helps you, habituate towards seeing the positive, looking at the positive whether it's your guru or other people. One of the most helpful pieces of advice, maybe I mentioned last session, but when I was kind of newly learning about this practice of guru devotion from a very senior monk, was that, and he had heard this advice from one Sakya Lama, that eventually you have to see all sentient beings as Buddhas. So why not start with your teacher? Because that's a practice in Tantra, seeing all sentient beings as enlightened and the environment as an enlightened environment. Because that's the quickest way to become enlightened. That's why the path of Tantra is called the resultant path, whereas the sutra path is called the causal path. So Tantra is called the resultant path because you take the result into the path. It means, and I often like to think for that about Olympic divers. When you see them like on, I don't know, ESPN or whatever, when you see them up on the diving platform or the board before they jump, you see them, they close their eyes and sort of visualize like all the flips and twists and turns and stuff they're going to do, and then how they're going to enter the water, right? And they're visualizing that so that when they actually do it, it just is automatic and it happens, right? So it's kind of like they're taking the result into the path. They're imagining the result that they want, like happening right now in that moment before it actually happens, as a method to actualize that result. So that's the same in Tantra. Like, you, instead of just thinking, oh, I'm an ordinary person and enlightenment is way up there and I'm kind of slowly climbing up the mountain and eventually I'll get there, then rather you think, no, I'm already enlightened now. And there's a lot of danger that comes with that, which is why Tantric is a hidden practice, and only kind of people only given access to it in a kind of limited way. But that is the kind of practice is, and basically that the practice is essentially you're looking at your own potential for, everything positive, everything good, and then imagining what it would be like if that was fully developed, like now, right? As a way of quickly actualizing that. So, I mean, in Guru devotion, especially the way it's presented in the Tibetan tradition, very much is related to Tantra. It's very much drawing from Tantra, as you'll see in some of the quotes we'll look at today. They're drawing from Tantras, but so it's kind of like it's because we're so intimate with our own faults, it's a little bit difficult to overlook them, right? So, but so we start with our teacher because we're not so intimately familiar with their faults, and our connection with them is based upon receiving benefit from them, receiving Dharma instruction, receiving vows, receiving advice. So it's a lot easier to begin that practice of taking the result into the path, essentially, of seeing, just focusing exclusively on the positive of a person with regard to our teacher. And then gradually, so we see the teacher as a Buddha and practice, seeing them as a Buddha, as our kind of, as a way of connecting with them, as a way of generating gratitude, as a way of receiving more and more benefit from them for our practice. But then, gradually we that same kind of view of the teacher as an enlightened being, we then try to apply to ourselves, and then other people, and gradually all sentient beings in the environment. So that monk saying, eventually you have to see all sentient beings as Buddhas, so why not start with your teacher? Kind of helpful. Okay, so let's look at the I don't know. You have any questions about that or anything we discussed last week or at the outset? Can try to address, otherwise look at the outlines. Yeah.
I have a question. To this idea of seeing the teacher as a Buddha, before you choose a teacher, do you need to be able to see that, or is that something that just evolves over the relationship? is it like a level of maturity? Is it, having to learn more about the Dharma before you get to this point, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's difficult to say like at what point you do that. Um, it's definitely, well, how do you say? Um, well, it's definitely something like you want to recognize like that's what, I mean, again, like in Buddhism, there's so many things that this is what's recommended, this is how you should practice. But then, we just have to practice to the degree that we can. It's
Mm-hmm.
like the 10 non-virtuous actions, you shouldn't kill, steal, lie, engage in slander, harsh speech, idle gossip. Idle gossip is really hard. Like, and slander is even difficult. Like, so it's advised that's what's perfect is if you can abandon all of those. But then you do the best you can, no? And you can't, uh, no one's expecting us to be perfect. So with regard to guru devotion, it is good to understand that if you do take someone, you decide to recognize someone as your teacher and you enter that relationship, that's what's expected. Although, I mean, it's difficult to see someone as a Buddha. So of course, it's not something we can do like perfectly all the time. Um, but yeah, I guess, yeah, before you enter in that relationship with someone, I mean, that's why you want to study like we are now. So you understand, well, what are the qualities I should look for? What are the faults I should be aware of? What's kind of expected if I'm, um, in terms of, the teachings about how to rely upon a teacher, what's expected. But then also maybe from that person that you're considering taking as a teacher, maybe also it's important to understand, well, what do they expect of their students? Do they all expect their students to, stand every time they enter the room and, give them all their money and, wait on them hand and foot all the time? Or are they much more kind of relaxed in the way they relate to their students and what they expect? And do they even maybe not want that kind of, many, especially Western teachers, they don't want that kind of veneration and, being waited on hand and foot and kind of being, they don't want so much attention. So also, is that something you'd be comfortable with if they really kind of are a little bit aloof and they want to keep their own private space and distance and they don't want to give advice about every little thing? So, um, the essential practice though boils down to, of course, seeing as a Buddha is difficult, but is not seeing faults and looking at positive qualities, not seeing faults in the teacher. So really, before you take someone as a teacher of it, um, informally in this way, it's really like you have to check, well, can I practice not seeing faults in them and seeing positive qualities? Um, so in a way that, at least I'm comfortable. Maybe sometimes you do see faults, but do I know how to deal with that also? So the two main, when we see faults in a, when well when there, I guess it's like when there are things that could appear as faults in a teacher, like, well, in the worst case, like very unethical behavior. But in a more mild case, like when they show the aspect of being like tired or sick, like even His Holiness Dalai Lama shows the aspects of needing, medical treatment and, getting sick, having cold or, having dysentery or stuff like that, needing an operation. Um, then, because in one way, how will we interpret that? Well, we interpret that as, oh, actually they're not a Buddha. They're just an ordinary person. People just have all these kind of, fabricated ideas about them. That is totally undermine and destroy our practice of Buddha devotion, right? If we think about that. So when we see things that could appear as faults in the teacher, there's two main ways to interpret. And this is really kind of the essence of the relying upon a spiritual teacher. One is that, okay, so you take as the basis there a Buddha. So either they're showing that faulty aspect because of our karma, because that's the kind of, because our karma, and it's not just our personal karma, but the karma of all the sentient beings that to whom they appear is contaminated, is full of faulty. So we can't, if they show just a pure appearance, we wouldn't be able to see that. No. So in order to appear to us, in order to relate to us, they have to show this kind of faulty aspect with mistakes, because that's what fits our karma. So that's the aspect, that's the only aspect they can show in order that they can appear to us. So that's one way to think. And then the other way to think is that they're intentionally showing these kind of mistaken appearances, mistaken aspects, in order to benefit somebody. I don't know who or how, but it's benefiting. It's in order to benefit someone that they're showing that aspect. So those are the two ways that you have to interpret. Once you take someone as a teacher and you see things that might appear as faults, either they're showing that aspect because that's the only kind of aspect they can show that fits our contaminated karma, or they're showing that aspect in order to benefit someone somehow. So if you can use those kind of two interpretations, it really protects you from seeing faults in the teacher. You know? It's not that they have faults, it's just that they're showing this kind of faulty appearance. So that really protects the mind. So yeah, I think it's if you feel, when are you ready, is when, yeah, you feel like you're able to see more positive than negative in the teacher. Then I think it's ready. If you still feel like, no, you're going to see, like, your own mind, you're very critical or skeptical or whatever, that you're going to see faults, then it's better to wait. No? Because if you see more faults than you see good, you're just going to create more negative karma, right? If you can see more positive than negative, then you're going to create more merit, and you'll progress. I think it's like that. But then remember, like I said last time, there's different levels of teachers. That doesn't mean, just to attend teachings, even by, great lama, like, you don't have to take them as a teacher, right? When does someone become a teacher? Is when you decide in your mind, you generate that discrimination. Oh, this is my teacher. I want to rely upon them as a teacher. Or when you take, again, though, when you take vows or initiations, then it's automatic, right? Because you're taking vows from the person. But just to attend a teaching, listen to someone, give a lecture, or um, even attend, kind of minor initiations, like a long life initiation or something. You don't have to. Basically, it's Chara and, well, Kriya and Charya Tantra, because those two lower classes of Tantra, the initiations don't involve vows. So you can attend and not take any vows, and therefore not take the person as a teacher. But that means also you're not taking the initiation. You're just kind of being there, which is common at Dharma centers, and in monasteries in Asia too. But if it's highest yoga tantra initiation, or yoga tantra, the two higher classes of tantra, then if it's a full initiation, vows are being given and everyone there is expected to participate. Although in the Tibetan community, it's quite loose. People do come and just have like a picnic with their family, but it's not so good to do. Really, it's better to be a little more strict. Anyway, that's kind of, yeah. Does that answer?
Yes, very helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Right out of the gate. Okay. Okay. Then let's look at our outlines. Let's look. So, okay. So the main headings for this whole module: an introduction and qualities of the teacher, qualities of the student, is all what we looked at last week. Yeah. And then, so this week we'll want to look at mainly these two: how to rely on thought and how to rely on action. And then next week, we'll look at the benefits of relying upon a teacher and the drawbacks of not relying or incorrectly relying upon a teacher. And we probably won't finish these two this week either, because there's quite a lot. That's the main, the main kind of material, or the main topics of contemplation and relying upon a teacher are here, in how to rely in thought. So, because that is the main practice for relying upon a teacher. Of course, there is action, how to rely on action, but that's quite more straightforward, the things that we do once we rely upon a teacher. But the main practice is how to rely on thought. Like one point, I mean, again, like I said the last week, this is a topic Lama Zopa Rinpoche felt was very, very important. It is the root of the path. And Rinpoche would teach and speak about it extensively, like often. But one point Rinpoche would make was quoting from the first verse of the Foundation of All Good Qualities, where it says, "Yontin Kung Yishiger Chen Shenje," the kind, pure, the kind, perfect, pure Guru is the foundation of all good qualities. Correctly relying upon them. So they're the source of all good qualities. Why? Because the teacher is, it's from the teacher that we receive all the explanations. And we receive the transmission of the lineages of texts and initiations and vows. So those lineages of like Dharma, basically. Think like the refuge vows. When we take refuge vows, where did those originate? With Shakyamuni Buddha himself. And then they're passed down in an unbroken chain of like this living interaction between teacher and student from Shakyamuni Buddha down to us. So where does that, that stream of kind of blessing, how does it come to us? Through whoever gave us the refuge vows, that teacher. And then similarly, the transmission of like initiations, or even the oral transmission of different texts, like the Heart Sutra. If we've received, say, teacher could give an oral transmission of the Heart Sutra. So again, that's something that was actually spoken by the Buddha. Shakyamuni Buddha himself spoke it to a group of disciples, and then they memorized it, and then they taught it to their disciples, and it's been passed down in this unbroken chain of oral transmission to us. So who do we receive it from? From our teacher. So all the blessing that comes with that lineage, then we receive through that person. And then, of course, the explanation of sutras or refuge or an advice of how to practice. So all that advice, again, it originates with Shakyamuni Buddha. It didn't also begin with him. I mean, Shakyamuni Buddha received from other Buddhas in countless past lives. But it's all that kind of wisdom and blessing and the power of the whole practice of Buddhism. It all comes to us through who? Through different teachers, right? So that's how they're the foundation of all good qualities. So in the basis on the whatever positive qualities we develop on the basis of our interaction with our exposure to the Buddhist teachings, it all comes about in dependence upon teachers. So then, or correctly relying upon them by respecting, by recognizing how they've benefited us, then is the root of the path, because it's by having like that kind of wholesome connection with the teachers, then we continue to receive more and more blessing. Whereas if we generate wrong attitudes and see just faults and negative things, and then just like if we focus on the faults of our mother, our father, our siblings, then it causes us to overlook everything good about them, and we destroy that connection. The relationship is cut, and then we can no longer receive benefit from them. So same with our teachers. So then correctly relying upon the teachers by seeing positive qualities then is said to be the root of the path. So seeing this well, so this is the main point I was coming to. Rinpoche often makes this, seeing this truth, how all these positive qualities come through the teacher, correctly relying upon them is the root of the path, our own path, our own practice. Then seeing this clearly, understanding this, apply great effort. So why great effort? Because it's difficult to see the teacher as a Buddha. It's difficult to interpret, these kind of what appears faults in a different way than we ordinarily do, to see them as, actually the action of an enlightened being. So we have to make great effort. We have to, try again and again. Okay, so relying in thought. So this is, and the main effort we make is how we see them, how we think about, um, yeah. So, so there's two main headings here. The root, training yourself to have faith in your guru. So here, faith is the main thing. So we generate faith by thinking about like qualities of the guru, what the guru is, and thinking about their qualities. And then developing respect for them. This is the second one. Respect by remembering their kindness. So we generate more respect for the guru by thinking about how kind they've been to us. So there's these two things. Relying in thought is mainly generating faith and generating respect. And so faith or devotion, we generate by seeing them as a Buddha and thinking of all their positive qualities. And then we generate respect for them by remembering how they've been kind to us. So those are the two main headings. And then they each have subheadings. So here, the root, training yourself to have faith in your guru, there's this quotation here I'll come back to, and then has these three main subheadings. The reason you must regard the guru as a Buddha, the reason you're able to see them in this way, and then how to actually the practice of how to regard them as a Buddha. So this is the main heading. But here, this is this is a quotation by Gyawa and Sapa. Actually, this quotation is in the Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand, but it's translated quite differently. This translation is taken from Lama Zopa Rinpoche's brilliant book on Guru devotion called, I think, The Heart of the Path. Is that right? It's The Heart of the Path or The Light? No, it's not. I think it's The Heart of the Path. Maybe, can you look up, Marianne? Yeah. So, but it's a big, thick book of Rinpoche's teachings on, I think it's from Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archive, Rinpoche's teachings on correct Guru devotion. I found that very helpful also when I was, when I was kind of maybe 10 years after I'd been ordained, about 8, 10 years. But this is a quotation from that. So this is Rinpoche's translation of the same passage by Gyawa and Sapa. So, and Gyawa and Sapa is famed as one of the Gelugpa masters who became enlightened in that life. So he's about probably 1 or 2 generations after Tsongkhapa. So in like the late 1400s, I believe, was when he lived. There's many teaching instructions come from Gyawa and Sapa. So he says, in short, whether we achieve great or small realizations depends upon whether we have meditated with great or small devotion. It's devotion to the spiritual teacher. And this is a translation of the word faith, what's also translated as faith, tepa, Tibetan. Therefore, may I keep as my heart practice the instruction to reflect only upon the qualities of the kind guru, the source of all realizations, and not look at faults. Right. So this is a quotation. Lama Zopa says, we should put in, note down and put with our own daily practices and prayers and recite and contemplate on, important to think about and meditate on regularly. So this is really the essence of the this practice of Guru devotion. So again, in short, in short means he's summarizing of, all the meaning, a lot of meaning. Whether we achieve great or small realizations. So what we achieve in our own mind, whether we generate realizations, great or small, depends upon whether we have meditated on whatever topic we're meditating with great or small devotion or faith in our teachers. Therefore, may I keep as my heart practice the instruction to reflect only upon the qualities of the guru. Remember, I was saying that's the essential practice, to reflect upon the positive qualities of the guru, the source of all realizations, and not to look at faults. Or if you do see things that would appear as faults, to interpret them as actual, enlightened, well, having a profound meaning, right? Not being ordinary faults. So interpreting them in those two ways, either seeing it, they're showing that aspect because that's what fits the obscured mind of sentient beings, or for a specific purpose in order to benefit someone. And then the three main headings here, again, the reason you must regard them as a Buddha, the reason you're able to see them this way, and then how to regard him properly. And they use him, the pronoun him here, just because, I don't know, this is from Pabongkar Rinpoche, he's teaching in Tibet in 1950s, where most of the teachers are men, but it's not. The guru can also be a woman as well, of course. Okay, and there's a link to, I guess, the book there, Part of the Path. Yeah. Is it for free distribution?
Let me check.
Okay. Okay, so then the reason you must regard them as a Buddha, or you should regard them as a Buddha, must is maybe a little strong. So the Blue Book of Spells, this is a Kadampa Geshe text, says the Guru's blessings are not really great or small. It all depends on you. So that's really interesting, no? I mean, that's another reason the topic of Guru devotion is a little difficult, because there's a lot of, it's like, yeah, you see, if you debate it, it's something we don't debate very much, because if you really debate it, it's very difficult to defend. There's a lot of contradictory things going on. So here, like I'm saying that because here it says the Guru's blessings are not really great or small. It all depends upon you. So in one way, it's like saying, like the Guru, and the quote below kind of backs that up. But like the Guru is not, whether the Guru is a Buddha or not, it doesn't really matter. It depends upon how you see them, you know. But then below, it's all saying, oh, the Guru is a Buddha for this or this or this reason. The Guru is a Buddha. But it's more like, yeah. So here you kind of have to. We kind of, the way we think about the Guru, we kind of have to divide between, like, what is the correct practice that's going to benefit me and help me progress on the path, and what is like an objective reality if I'm thinking totally outside of this practice of Guru devotion. There's kind of two ways to think about it. So, it's similar to, well, maybe I won't go in, but there's other kind of similar practices. Well, I mean, again, it's similar to that, seeing all sentient beings as having been your mother. I mean, if you think about it in an objective way, what's the reasoning? All sentient beings have been my kind mother in the past, because I've had infinite lives, and all those infinite lives I've had, mothers, and therefore, at least I can't point to one sentient being who's never been my mother. But by the very same logic, you could say, well, I've had infinite lives in the past, and all those lives I've been cheated and tortured and murdered by different people. And therefore, there's no sentient being I can point to who hasn't murdered me or tortured me or cheated me or done terrible, abused me in a terrible way. Like, the logic is exactly the same. But if we think on the negative side, it's just going to make us, like, be afraid of everyone we meet, or be like, abhor everyone we meet. If we think on the positive side, it's going to benefit us. So that's kind of really the main practice, right? So that's what he's saying. The Guru's blessings. So whether you see the Guru with faith, and thereby you're able to kind of fully adopt the instruction, the advice that's coming from the Buddha, and kind of let that grow in your mind stream, depends upon you having a positive view of them. So the Guru's blessings. So what is the Guru's blessings? Is like this positive energy that you feel like comes from the teacher and from the lineage, and that is kind of nourishment for developing positive qualities in your heart and your mind stream. So the Guru's blessings are not really great or small. It means from the side of the Guru, it's not like they're giving you something great or small. It all depends upon you, how you see them. And then Geshe Tolungpa, he's another Kadampa Geshe, goes on to say, if we have faith that the Guru is the embodiment of all the Buddhas of the three times, of the past, present, and the future, and of the holy bodies. The holy body, speech, and mind of all the Buddhas abides in that teacher. And we, the disciples, receive the blessings of all the Buddhas of the three times. Right? So again, it's like saying, it depends upon our faith. It all comes down to our faith. If we have faith that the Guru is the embodiment of the Buddha of the three times, whether they are in essence like the same nature with all the Buddhas, like that's how we should see them. But whether they are actually are or not is irrelevant, right? It's by the power of our faith of seeing them in that way that the that the blessings of the holy body, speech, and mind of all the Buddhas, then they abide in that teacher. It's like the blessings come to us through that teacher, through the power of our faith. And we, the disciples, receive the blessings of all the Buddhas of the three times. So that's why we need to regard them as a teacher, so that we we receive the blessing of the Buddha through the teacher by the power of the faith. And again, why is this difficult? Because you can see it's a very sort of mysterious thing. Like, what is the blessings of the Buddha? How did the blessings of the Buddha come? How does that relate to our faith? It's not like it's not like doing mathematics or something. It's something. It's something. I think. I mean, as I'm kind of interpreting or explaining these quotations, I'm also it's occurring to my mind how much this looks like a cult. How like this is kind of how cults work too. You can imagine a cult leader being like, oh, if you see me as the whatever, the Christ, then you'll be happy, and you just have to believe whatever I say, because so yeah, I mean, that's why it's not something to rush into. But that's why I think the best, how is it different from a cult, and how do we protect ourselves from being kind of manipulated or taken advantage of, or falling into some kind of situation that we regret later and becomes very destructive for ourselves or others. His Holiness gives the main advice that the main way to make sure we're on the right track is to study the Buddha's teachings, right? Know what the Buddha actually taught, understand the Four Noble Truths, and the two truths, and the morality of abandoning the 10 non-virtuous actions, the meaning of the Buddha Dharma Sangha, the meaning of renunciation, the faults of samsara, the bodhicitta ideal, and compassion, and what is appropriate ethical, the training in ethics, higher concentration, higher wisdom, the 6 trainings of the 6 perfections. So the more we have a broad understanding of the Buddha's teachings, then the more we have a basis to assess whether this person that either is presenting themselves as a teacher, even we haven't relied upon them, if they're really worth their reputation or title, if they're really teaching something that's in accord with the Buddha's teachings. The more we understand and know about the Buddha's teachings, the more we have a safe basis to base if someone's guiding us or others in a correct way or not, right? The less we have understanding of what the Buddha actually taught, then the more we're susceptible to this kind of manipulation, right? But then, so within that, gaining a broad understanding of the Buddhist teachings by reading and studying and listening to lectures, teachings. Then it's also important, like, to experiment with this practice of Guru devotion. Like, I think about how when I first took refuge, the first time I relied upon a teacher is when I took refuge, right, at Kopan in 1999. So I'd taken a 5-day intro course, the center in Kathmandu, and then went away and it was basically on Lamrim. Then did a 2 weeks Lamrim retreat just on my own, thinking about everything I'd heard and using Annie Karen's Lamrim outlines for meditating on Lamrim. And then it felt like it was really very profound, very beneficial. So then took another 10-day course at Kopan, and then decided I wanted to take refuge. I was quite quick, jumped into it. So then I took refuge with Lama Lundrup. And yeah, I'd also attended lectures by another Tibetan Lama at that time who was kind of impressive, but I didn't feel like I could trust him fully. I wasn't sure what was going on 100%. It turns out, I think over long term, observing them from afar, they're very good Lama, I think very trustworthy, but I didn't feel so comfortable with them. Whereas with Lama Lundup, he's a little more plain and kind of, I don't know, straightforward, a little more stern maybe, but I felt very comfortable. I could trust. So anyway, I took refuge vows from Lama Lundup, and that was my first teacher. But I also wasn't comfortable, like I didn't really understand the practice that you're supposed to see them as a Buddha, and so forth right off. But what I did feel just through my interaction with Lama Lundrup taking refuge vows, I did feel just naturally like he's an incredible person. Like he's a incredibly kind of realized, powerful, very positive and wise like person. So I definitely felt, and that's due to my, it's probably some connection I had with him from past life, that I just had that kind of experience, that kind of perception of him. And that's, I think that's very fortunate. But I also didn't feel comfortable just be like, okay, I'm going to just see them as a Buddha and do whatever they say. Like then every bit of advice he gave me, I would kind of think about, oh, do I really want to do that or not? Is that really right to do or not? But usually my approach, which I found very beneficial over the long term, was, well, just try whatever advice he gave. I'll just try and see how it seems to affect my mind. Does it seem to have a good effect, or does it seem kind of worthless? And then I always found it had a beneficial effect, everything he asked me to do. Like the first thing he suggested I do was prostrations to the 35 Buddhas, which I'd never done before. I'd never heard of that practice. I'd never made a long prostration. I didn't like the idea of like putting myself face down on the ground. But I thought, okay, I'll try it. I remember the first time I did it, I'll try it. And I was really surprised by how much it seemed to benefit my mind. Just that first session. I think I must have some kind of good imprints or some kind of connection but anyway, I think that's a good approach to, again, to protect yourself from, falling into like a cult-like kind of relationship with a teacher or with a group of students or something, is to be objective, and kind of honor your own ability to discriminate between what's good for you and what's not. Don't just throw that away and put that in someone else's hands and assume like they know better than you. Like ultimately you have to, develop your own inner wisdom and know, like, have a sense of what's good for you and not. Yeah. But then the more the more you test someone's advice and you see it's beneficial, then naturally the more respect for them you have for them, the more trust you have in them, the more faith you develop. So faith is something you shouldn't just because I think even you take someone as teacher, you just 100% have faith. That's not realistic, right? You have to see what's realistic for yourself. Honest, you have to be honest with yourself. And then, but then, you receive some instruction, receive some advice, see how it benefits your mind. And then, gradually generate faith. Also with Lama Zopa Rinpoche, I didn't have very strong connection with at first. I'd heard so much about Lama Zopa Rinpoche from other people before I ever met him, that I already kind of had an aversion to, not to him, but to this kind of whole reputation and all this kind of aura and this sort of hype around Lama Zopa Rinpoche. But then when I first met him, I just didn't know what to expect. But again, I felt like the way his kind of presence, the way he spoke, the way he did things, it was very beneficial for my mind. So then gradually I generated more and more kind of trust and respect and faith. And yeah, so I think that's kind of the way to go. So the reason you should regard the teacher as a Buddha is because the more you can see them in that positive way and have faith in them, have trust in them, then the more like you receive the blessings of the the lineage of the Buddha that are coming from Shakyamuni Buddha and all the Buddhas that comes through them. Yeah, it's kind of like, in a mirror, if the mirror is covered with like thick dust, you can't see any reflection. The more you clean it, the more it reflects, and you see things more and more clearly. Or if you have another analogy commonly used is, if like you're using a magnifying glass to start a fire, if the magnifying glass is like covered with mud or dirt or something, then the light can't go through it and can't light the fire. So the more it's clean, then the more the light goes through. So here the light going from the sun is like the blessing of all the Buddhas is continually, think all these enlightened beings these beings who become enlightened in the past, they exist now. They're continually trying to benefit us. But we can't, because of our karmic obscurations, we can't see them. They can't connect with us. They can't appear to us. So the way they appear is in the Buddhas. As the guru, as the teachers. So the guru is like the magnifying glass. But if our mind is covered with, skepticism and doubt, and to see faults and then see negative things about them, then it's like dirt on the magnifying glass. So the more we can see the teacher in a pure way, then the more the blessings of the Buddhas can come through, and then it starts the fire of realizations within our mind stream. So the reason you're able to see the guru as a Buddha. So this is here, like I was saying, from the Tantra. So this is from Tantra, Vajrapani Initiation Tantra. Seize on your master's qualities, never seize on their faults. When you will gain siddhis when you seize on their qualities, and you will not gain siddhis when you seize on their faults. So siddhis are realizations. So it's basically the same thing as what it said above. Basically, see positive qualities in your teachers, never grasp at their faults. When you will gain realizations, this is what Ensapa was saying above. You'll gain realizations when you see their qualities, and when you see faults, you won't gain realizations. You won't develop realizations. So again, this is not something easy to understand. We have to, maybe we spend some time meditating on it in the next half of the session. But what is this relationship between my seeing positive qualities in, even in just the Buddha? Like if you see positive qualities in the Buddha, it's like, think about it, when we newly approach Buddhism or any, I forgot about this. I even think about like when I was studying in school, especially when I was like a young teenager, very, I don't know, how are teenagers, kind of angsty and critical and sassy a little bit. So I remember like when I was in 7th grade, some of the teachers I had where I went to school in Williamsburg, Virginia, then elementary school was like 4th, 5th, 6th grade. Then there was junior high, 7th and 8th grade, and then high school, the last 4 years, 9th through 12th grade. But I remember, especially in junior high school, I don't know. I remember especially Miss Holt, this one science teacher I had, Miss Holt, and another also Miss Basil, another phys ed teacher I had. And I didn't like them. I had no respect for them at all. I felt like they didn't know their topic very well. They didn't know how to handle the class. They, would say a lot of things that they don't back up with any kind of good reasons. And so I couldn't learn from them, because I just saw faults, Whereas other teachers that I just liked, I could see, they seem like a nice person, they're kind, they seem intelligent, they seem to really care about the students. Then just because you like them, then you can learn from them, It's not, so it's the same with the teacher, if you see positive qualities or the same with a friend, see positive qualities in a friend, then they give you some advice that maybe is difficult to hear, but you can consider it and take it on board, and maybe it benefits you. If another person that you don't really like, you don't respect much, they might give you the exact same advice, but you'll just discount it right from the get-go because you don't have much respect for the person. So it's the same with a teacher. That's kind of one way to look at this. Of course, this is talking about a little bit more profound, but we always have to start with a real life experiential example we have that's more simple, but in the same pattern. So the reason you're able to see them. But the one thing it misses here, this quote misses, is another aspect of the reason we're able to see the guru as a Buddha is because our mind is a creature of habit, right? Because, depending upon how we think, we can change our perspective. So anything that we habituate ourselves to, I mean, that's what meditation is. We're putting effort into generating a certain understanding again and again and again, and then or habituating our mind to like a positive way of thinking or being. And then the more we do that, the more the mind changes, and what was very contrived and forced at one point can become very automatic, later on. So just like think with anger, if we have a tendency to get irritated and angry about things, if we see the faults of anger and reflect on that again and again and again, gradually we can, not be so reactive. And then think about the benefits of patience and, kindness, loving kindness. Then we can increase that, and we can change how we are, right? So because the mind is flexible like that, or in terms of, there's neuroplasticity, if you want to think in terms of neurology, then even the physical structure of our brain changes. It depends upon our mental habituation. So for that reason, we're also able to see the guru as a Buddha, because how we see the person depends upon our own effort, our own habituation. Anyway, let's stop here for a 5-minute break. Okay.
Can I ask a question real quickly?
Sure.
What is the Blue Book of Spells?
Yeah, I think it's a book I think it's a book of advice from Kadampa Geshes.
Okay, I couldn't find it.
No?
Well,
Oh,
I couldn't
maybe I
find
can search for it a
Yeah,
bit
it's-
later. I think it's translated by Herbert Gunter.
Herbert Gunther.
I think it's also called the Blue Annals. Translated by him. I think it's the same book, I believe. Anyway, but we can check later.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So I want to try to look quickly through at least these 4 points. So this is the next. So remember, let's see. Okay, how to rely on thought. There's the root training yourself to have faith in the guru, and then developing respect by remembering their kindness. So at least this, so then the root training, training yourself to have faith, there's 3 main points. The reason you must regard them as a Buddha, the reason you're able to see them as a Buddha, and then how to regard them properly. So the main one is this here, how to regard them properly. And then, so this has 4 subheadings. So I want to at least get through those 4, and then I think we'll do some meditation. So these are the 4 subheadings: how to regard the person properly, your guru properly. So this is like how, okay, then basically it's like the reasons that they are a Buddha, basically, right? Above it explain why it's important to see them as a Buddha, why you're able to see them as a Buddha. And this is like, well, how do you actually do that? What are the reasonings you use in your practice to establish that they are a Buddha for yourself? So again here, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, that there's kind of, it's like within, the practice of relating to someone as a guru and then seeing them as a Buddha, there's a way of thinking to establish that that's the case. But then if you step outside of that and outside of that practice of guru devotion, then think about the same thing. The logic, it's not so watertight, right? But so when that's why when you relate to someone as a guru, then you use all this logic. So I mean, I think about it because when sometimes this comes up in debate, and then it's really difficult to know on the debate courtyard, with other monks or other, Dharma students who are not, they have different teachers. They have a whole different set of teachers. So if this logic was all the logics that we'll go through, if it was all like really watertight here, then it would apply to anyone's teacher. But just because someone is a Dharma teacher of another person, then they see the person as a Buddha. But if they're not our teacher, it doesn't mean we don't have to see them as a Buddha. And then anyway, it becomes kind of so it's like, yeah, this is a way of thinking within the practice of guru devotion. So once you have that connection with a teacher, then you use these reasonings. So the first is that, so how to regard them properly. The Vajradhara stated that the guru is a Buddha. So so this is from a Tantra. Vajradhara is actually Shakyamuni Buddha appearing in this aspect of the Lord or the King of all the Tantras, Vajradhara. So he said that in the future, the Buddhas will appear as gurus. So we'll look at that. And then the second one is the proof that the guru is the agent of all the Buddhas. So there's a certain logic we'll go over. And then the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are still working for the sake of sentient beings. This is the one I find most compelling. That the Buddhas, enlightened beings and Bodhisattvas, they still exist. They're working for the benefit of sentient beings. So then who are those people in the world? Well, they're the people who teach us Dharma. Right? And then you cannot be sure of appearances. So yeah, this one also is that's a very strong, these two are the strongest reasons, I think. I mean, that you cannot be sure of appearances is not really a reason the guru is a Buddha. It's just a reason that when you see faults, it's not necessarily that that's actually what it is, that that's actually the case. Because many times things appear to us as being one way when actually they're not. It's hard for us to gauge what's reality. So then one by one, we go through those. So first, the Vajradhara stated that the guru is a Buddha. So again, this is from a Tantra. Remember I was saying this presentation is based on Tantra. From Hevadra's Royal Tantra. So Hevadra is the name of one deity. And there it says, in future times, my physical form will be that of masters. So masters here means like scholars or teachers. So he's saying in future times. So this is a Buddha speaking in that Tantra, saying in the future times, my physical form won't be like this kind of, deity-like body, but I'll appear as basically ordinary teachers. Also, in the last 5 centuries, so it means when the Buddha was alive, then he predicted that his teachings would remain in the world for another 5,000 years, right? And then he divided that 5,000-year period up into 500-year segments. Yeah, 10 500-year segments. So, and they're each progressively more and more degenerate, right? So he's saying even in the last 500 years of the Buddha's teachings, when there's widespread degeneration, then also in that, he's saying also in the last 5 centuries or 500 years, I will take the form of masters, think that they are me and develop respect for them. So even in the last 500 years, the Buddha, the speaking here, saying, I will appear as different teachers and then think that, recognize them as emanations of me, basically. Think that they are me and develop respect for them just as you would have respect for me. This is I copy pasted from Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand, this quote. But this is a quite common quote. And then the third one, it says, in future degenerate times, my form shall be that of churls, and through various means I will show my form. So churls, of course, means someone who's ill-behaved, is immoral. So in other sutras and tantras, the Buddha says in the future, I'll appear as like thieves, murderers, prostitutes, all kind of things, even animals. So, I mean, it's important here to remember, and this is related to the third reason below, is that we have to try to think about, imagine, if imagine for yourself, if you were to actually become enlightened, right? If you were to become enlightened, then we would eliminate all faults. So we totally eliminate anger, selfishness, attachment, arrogance, and we would just be the embodiment of selfless, universal, unconditional love for others, kindness, altruism, just purely wanting to benefit all beings, and infinite wisdom, and then together with that infinite like energy. We wouldn't need to like eat breakfast and lunch and dinner and sleep and stuff. We would just be sustained by the energy of our love and our kindness and our wisdom and our meditative concentration. The mind would be completely kind of blissful and full of this boundless like energy. And so and the whole purpose of attaining that state would have been in order to benefit others. So would we just sit back and lay in the sun and float around in the ocean and stuff and not do anything to benefit others? Of course not. No. Our minds would be pervading all space, and every bit of energy we have would be devoted to just appearing in whatever form and way benefits beings. We would be benefiting anyone that we can, however we can. So then you think, okay, so then but like, because of the karmic obscurations of beings, we can't appear as this kind of ephemeral, I don't know, God, like floating in the sky, radiating light, performing miracles and stuff. We can only appear in very ordinary ways to match their karmic appearance. It's like if you talk to a dog, you don't sit down and read poetry with your dog, because that does not going to touch the dog's mind. How do you relate to the dog? You scratch them behind the ears and give them little like biscuits and say, oh, come on, let's go for a walk, and da, 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 da. You do things that the dog can understand, the dog can relate to. You don't talk to them about what you just studied in discovering Buddhism, because they can't relate to that, right? So it's the same for us. Like the Buddhists, they can't just appear in like their enlightened way to us. We can't relate to that. So they have to appear in ways that can move us. So even and there's all different kinds of beings. Not everyone is kind of a nice, pleasant person like us. Some people are very abrasive. Some people only, relate to others who are like them. So like criminals or hunters or whatever, drug dealers. Then the Buddha appears as drug dealers and criminals and hunters in order to relate to those groups of people. The Buddha appears as like sassy adolescents or whatever, in order to relate to all those different kinds of people. Of course they would. That's what you would do, if you were a Buddha. So that's what he's saying. In future degenerate times, then basically I appear in degenerate forms in order to be able to relate to those people. My form shall be that of churros. Yeah. I know churros is not a common word. I would actually, if I wasn't talking to you, I'd look it up to see what is the definition. But maybe Marianne, can you look up churro? What exactly is a churro? And through various means, I will show my forms. Okay. So that's that point. Vajradhara said so. And then the other three, there's not so many quotations. I'll just explain a little bit and then we can meditate. So proof that the guru is an agent. So again, these outline headings are all taken from Liberation of the Palm of Your Hand. So if you want to read more about it, you can read there, but I'll try to summarize the essence here. Proof that the guru is the agent of all the Buddha's works. So here the proof is basically like that we think about how oneself has benefited from the Buddha's teachings. Right? Wherever you've received the Buddha's teachings from, either whatever advice or meditation instruction, quotations you found helpful, people like His Holiness or Lama Zopa, role models you find helpful, then you think, okay, then that's how all the Buddhas, all that instruction and advice and teachings, vows that have come from Shakyamuni Buddha and in essence have come from all the Buddhas, they've benefited me in these ways. So who is it that's benefiting me, right? Is it just ordinary people like me, or is it like enlightened beings? So if you say like all those people from whom I've been able to receive benefit of the Buddhist teachings, if they're all ordinary people, then it means like that for the Buddhas to benefit me, they have to rely upon ordinary people, wholly ordinary people. But that doesn't make sense, because why would a Buddha is all, not all powerful, but enlightened being and has many is very powerful being. So why would they have to rely upon and they can emanate in countless forms according to the disposition of beings. They emanate in all different ways. So why would they have to rely upon ordinary people in order to benefit me in the way they want? Like a Buddhist wouldn't have to rely upon a totally, deluded ordinary person in order to benefit me. So therefore, those people who've enabled me to benefit from the Buddha's teachings, they must be, either they must be Buddhas, or that activity that they do to benefit me must be the activity of the Buddhas. That one's a little bit more easy. So you can imagine, even if a person isn't a Buddha, but can the Buddhas act through them, right? That's what I was saying above in this other quote, remember, by Tolungpa. If we have faith that the Guru is the embodiment of all the Buddhas, then the holy body, speech, and mind of all the Buddhas abide in that teacher. So even if the teacher is not a Buddha, if we have faith that they are, then the enlightened activity of the Buddha comes through that teacher, that person. So here in this proof is like, oh, where do we go? Oh yeah, sorry, I want to go the wrong way. Yeah, proof. Is like all the benefit we've received from the Buddha's, from the Buddha's teachings, then that must be the activity of the Buddhas. It can't just be purely the action of ordinary beings. And therefore those the teachers that have benefited me, they must be Buddhas. That's kind of although in one of the articles in the PDF packet, like His Holiness discusses this reasoning also. So you can look there and also look at how Papa Rinpoche talks about it a lot. Yeah, but that one I don't find so compelling. The next two I find more compelling, especially the next one. So the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are still working for the sake of sentient beings. So the next one is basically what I was just saying just a little bit before. Like when I was saying, imagine you became a Buddha. What would you do as a Buddha? You would work continually to benefit sentient beings. So that's what it's saying. Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are still working for sentient beings. So take Shakyamuni Buddha. Then, when he showed the aspect of passing away, he dissolved the appearance of that body as Prince Siddhartha Shakyamuni Buddha, but that continuum of enlightened mind, it continues to exist, just like our mental continuum and our continuum as a person grows from life to life. Then, through the power of karma and afflictive emotions, an enlightened being's mental continuum and their continuum as a person, it appears in different forms, and then even those bodies disappear. They show the aspect of dying. The continuum continues. So the continuum of Shakyamuni Buddha exists now, and of course, he has all the qualities Shakyamuni Buddha had. He just can't appear in that form because we don't have the merit to have that kind of appearance. So I often think if Shakyamuni Buddha were to appear now in some form, like how would he appear? Like I think he would appear just like His Holiness Dalai Lama. He would just do that. He would do the same kind of things like His Holiness Dalai Lama or other, great Buddhist teachers are doing. Do you think how much benefit His Holiness has given, to people, so many individuals and in the world? Then of course, if Shakyamuni Buddha could appear, it's like he couldn't, due to our karmic obscurations, he couldn't do any better than that, right? So he would appear like that. So then, of course, and then there's countless other Buddhas. Think of just the ones like Milarepa became enlightened in that life. Gyawa and Sapa became enlightened. Lama Tsongkhapa. There's countless other Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and their continuum, their mental continuums, all exist now. Their enlightened activity exists now. So then you think, well, what would they do? What are they doing? Of course, they would be teaching the Dharma. They'd be teaching about the Four Noble Truths, teaching about refuge, teaching about renunciation, bodhicitta. Okay, so here another doubt comes up, and this is why I feel uncomfortable talking about this topic, because it can easily look like I'm saying I'm a Buddha. No, because I'm explaining the Four Noble Truths and renunciation and bodhicitta and all those things. No, But I'm totally not saying that at all. Like, because I know, I look at my mind, I know I'm not a Buddha, like, obviously. For me, there's no question. And I'm not saying to you, like, that's how you should look at me. But see, this is another instance where you kind of have to understand there's this kind of division in one's mind between objectively, how do we look at the topic, and within the practice of relating to a person as a, someone we've decided to relate to as our guru, how do we look at them? So, yeah. So yeah, within, when you decide to relate someone as a guru, it doesn't mean like they actually are a Buddha objectively. It means that's how you relate to them, because that's what's most beneficial for your mind. See, this reasoning is saying like they are a Buddha, but because that's how we think within that way of relating to them, because that's how we receive the blessing of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And that, why is it that when we have faith and we see the Guru as a Buddha, that's how, that faith again is like like the bright sun in the sky, and the qualities of the teacher are like, the snow on the top of a snow mountain, and then and then that causes their blessing to come down. So why is that? It's very difficult to explain, like why and how that works. It's something you have to just experiment with in your own practice. To me, it's one of the most mystical aspects of Buddhism, of any religion. Like, why, when we have faith, that it kind of has a power to transform our mind, transforms our lives in a very positive way. But yet it's kind of an essential like component of like spiritual practice in any, especially like the mystical aspect of any religious tradition, that kind of faith. So, but here the main reasoning is just this, that Buddhas and bodhisattvas are still working for the sake of sentient beings. And so they're appearing in forms as teachers, monks, nuns, lay people, and then also even scientists, teachers, doctors, nurses, politicians that do anybody that's doing very, benefiting sentient beings in a very profound way. They could well be emanation of a Buddha or Bodhisattva. Like, we don't know. To see them in that way is very good. Okay, and then for the last one, the fourth one, you cannot be sure of appearances. This is just saying, just because we see faults in a person doesn't mean they actually have those faults. Just because something appears in a certain way to us, so especially with regard to faults, just because we see someone being an ordinary person, it doesn't mean they actually are. Like, what do we actually know about other people? Like, what we actually know about anybody else is very, 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 very limited. So we shouldn't jump to conclusions. So especially if we, and this kind of helps protect our mind, especially if we decide to take someone as a teacher, then just because we see faults and they show the aspect of being a very ordinary person, it doesn't mean like they actually are. That's just our appearance. We have to recognize how much our appearance of things is shaped by our own ideas, our own karma, our own projections. Basically, we project so much up on the world, and then it appears back to us, and we think it's from the side of the object, but it's not, right? Like, think about when you're angry with someone, then you just see just negative, like they appear ugly, disgusting, very bad. Or you can think about when someone else is angry with you, or someone dislikes you, how they see you in such a negative light. But that's not reality. That's just their projection on us. So similar. Okay, I'll stop there. I think. Yeah, the rest we can continue next week. So, let's Well, so let's do a little meditation on. We'll do a little meditation on those last four points. Yeah, on these four. But I mean, of course, why don't I just, because you all know how to meditate now. I don't really need to guide you every step of the way. And we'll just keep it short. Like 10 minutes. I need to get out of this. I can't see when I show that screen, I can't see my clock on my computer at the same time. Oh, no, I have my phone. I'll use So yeah, so you can meditate on anything that we've covered so far. But I'll leave this screen up because so my suggestion is to think about, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, that's why there's so many, it's difficult. If you haven't taken someone as a teacher, then it doesn't make sense to kind of think about them as a teacher. But yeah, I don't know. You meditate on whatever you're compelled to think about in relation to this kind of relating to a spiritual teacher. Okay, so we'll just take 10 minutes and then we'll have some question and answer or discussion afterwards. Let me set my timer. So gradually focus your attention and then kind of frame for yourself generally what you like to think about, reflect on, and then generate the determination for the next 10 minutes. So kind of reflect on that or issues related to that, just to kind of define this session for yourself. And then within that, analyze as you like. Okay, so relax your attention there. So why don't we have a like 10-minute discussion group of maybe all 5 of you, one group. I'll just step out for 10 minutes and then come back at the end. Ask if there's any questions. Can answer. Unless you have any questions now, I can also just talk about how to answer, but maybe it's good. We haven't had a discussion group in a long time. So I was thinking it's good you try to answer each other's questions first, and then if that doesn't go so well, I can jump in and help out. So, okay. Were there any
believe
final
that
questions before we finish the session?
I had a question about like the meaning of the blessing, what that mean, and also I guess I would expand a little bit. I think a few people shared, it, like whether to view, like how to view that this is like the blessing of the Buddhas versus it's just like the forces of the karma, the cause and effect, and also like probably related to that would be sometimes there could be like things that happen like dreams or something, and then maybe there's a tendency, say for me, to want that to be a sign, but then there's really no logical reasoning, right? And then in some ways like, oh, this is superstitious, but and then it's kind of like in this your word is mystical aspect. It's like where is the line here? Yeah, so that's my question.
Yeah, those are all excellent questions, and it's very difficult to distinguish. I mean, yeah. I mean, the blessing of the Buddha is one of the. I mean, the Buddhas is one of the most difficult things to kind of define. But I think, I mean, it's what you have to check your own personal experience. But then, how do you distinguish in your personal experience what's your kind of superstitious thinking, or what's actually like the blessing of the Buddhas, like, or enlightened beings? I mean, I think when we feel inspired to, we feel some kind of inspiration spontaneously arise, inspiration to engage in virtue, inspiration to, become a better person, inspiration to do good things, inspiration with regard to like, any kind of aspect of our spiritual practice, then I think you could say it is the blessing of the Buddha. And in a way, like, to think about it in a more ordinary way, like the Buddha's, okay, there's the Buddha's enlightened mind. Well, think about, there's the Buddha's, like Chenrezig is supposed to be embodiment of all the Buddha's enlightened compassion. Manjushri, the embodiment of all the Buddha's enlightened wisdom. And then Tara, the embodiment of all the Buddha's enlightened activity. So the Buddhas have these aspects of their mind, enlightened wisdom and compassion, but there's also the enlightened activity of the Buddha. And that's also something everywhere their mind is, which is pervading all of space, their activity is also present. So the whole activity of a Buddha is kind of providing for support for beings to engage in virtue, any virtue. So in a way, like any virtuous thought we have, any virtuous action we do, is something that's being supported by the enlightened mind of the Buddha, the enlightened activities of the Buddha. So in one way, like whenever we feel compelled to, inspired to do something virtuous or anything good, that's a blessing of the Buddha, really. But then especially sometimes when it's very strong, or it's you just like, where did that thought come from? Some very, very virtuous thought. Then you feel more like, oh yeah, that's definitely, not from my side. No, it's really from the force of something, the force of good, something else. Then it's a little bit more clear. Also, it's good to check your mind when you're in the presence of. That's why it's so important when there are holy beings in the world, like His Holiness Dalai Lama, or now Jadarim Bishay or Khandrola or others, to go actually physically attend teachings, be in their presence and see how the mind changes. You can see, or a holy place like Bodh Gaya. That's why the Buddha said, all of his followers should visit the 4 holy places: Lumbini, where he was born, and Bodh Gaya, where he achieved enlightenment, Sarnath, where he gave the first teaching, and Kushinagar, where he showed the aspect of passing away. Because those physical places, they carry a very strong blessing, right? So to go in a place like Bodh Gaya, I feel so like my mind changes so much just to be close to the Bodhi tree, close to the stupa. So you go to a place like that and kind of look, see how your mind changes, and then you get a sense of, oh, this is what the blessing of the Buddha maybe feels like. And then when you're not in that place, you're just on your own and developing faith, and you see your mind change some way, then you're like, oh yeah, it's kind of like when I was there. That then you gradually get a sense of more when it seems to be, yeah, maybe it is the power of the blessing of the Buddha, and maybe when it's just my own kind of fantasy idea about something, something like that. Yeah, but it's difficult to say, what's due to our karma. That's a very good question. I mean, I like that one. Like, what's due to our karma, and what's due to actually the action of some other person outside of our continuum, whether it's a Buddha or a Bodhisattva or what. That's very difficult to distinguish. I'm not sure. There's no easy answer to that. Yeah, anyway, we're already over time. I don't want to keep you guys longer. I'm sure you have other things to do. Mary Ellen, you had?
Yeah, just a quick question. Your karma and that's isn't that all wrapped up in blessings as well?
Well, yeah, but see, there's things that happen. Yeah, I mean, it's not everything that happens is related to our karma, but it's not is related to our karma, but it's not solely through the force of our karma. Like, uh, like it's related to your karma that you decide to attend, to participate in discovering Buddhism, right? But everything I say and do is not through the force of your karma. Like I can say whatever I want, really. I can start talking about The Simpsons if I want. Or something totally unrelated. So, and I couldn't blame that on your karma. Well, it's the karma of, the people in the group that I started going off about The Simpsons. Like, that's too easy, right?
But what I hear,
So,
but what I hear, no matter what you say, what I hear is related to my karma.
it's related to, but it's not like, you know, yeah, it's not exclusive of your karma. Your karma is a participating cause. No, it's one of the causes for what you hear, how you hear it. Yeah. Yeah. So with relation to the blessing of the Buddha, yeah, whether we receive blessing or how much it affects our mind, yeah, it's related to our karma. And that's why it's said like the kind of the way to receive the blessing of the Buddha is to have faith. Like the more faith we have, the more we kind of receive. It's described like a hook. Like one of the last teachings I've heard Lama Zopa Rinpoche give in Dharamsala and Tushita, Rinpoche was saying like, we're like, being in samsara, we're like a person who's down in a pit full of like, filth and snakes and fire or something. And we want to get out, but we can't climb out the walls. And the Buddhas are like these beings who are out, they've already escaped from samsara, and they're lowering down a rope for us to pull us out. But we have to grab onto the rope and hold on. So that's our faith, no? Or like we're a person drowning in water and then someone's throwing us, a lifesaver. But we have to have like grab onto it and hold on to it. So that kind of is like the more we have faith, then we give attention to and respect, and we open our minds up to being transformed by the Buddha's teachings. If we decide not to go there, not to open up to that, then it can't affect our minds. Anyway, we can continue next week. So our last session will be next week. So let's just dedicate very briefly. So rejoice in whatever merit we've created together, discussing how to properly rely upon a spiritual teacher. Some other force of this merit, then may all beings be free from every form of suffering, especially free of war, famine, and abuse, and being under the control of karma and afflictive emotions. And then may all beings have every form of well-being and happiness up to full enlightenment. And may all of our own actions contribute only towards these. And then may the Buddha's teachings and all spiritual teachings which are beneficial to beings flourish in the world. May His Holiness the Dalai Lama and our teachers have long and stable lives. And may Lama, a good reincarnation, an unmistaken reincarnation of Lama Zopa Rinpoche quickly appear, who was able to continue the holy deeds of Lama Zopa Rinpoche in his life. And may the ocean of compassion center flourish, and may all your own prayers be fulfilled, and especially may Venerable Palmo be in physical comfort and mental clarity, and be able to endure her illness and transition to whatever's to come with wisdom and compassion and a mind full of faith. Okay, thank you all, and see you next week. Try to meditate in the meantime.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Venerable.
Geshe-la.
That's not.